Welcome back to the World Race Series for the fourth race of the 2022 season and the first of the second half of the season. Today we visit Silverstone Raceway in the United Kingdom, as you can see footage from the drivers qualifying yesterday morning and earlier today. As of this morning, the clouds have rolled in and rain is on its way, but hopefully we can get this race in before it starts pouring. As for Silverstone, it's a famous race course that promotes great racing all throughout, with a good mix of straightaways and wide sections to allow for big moves. For today's theme, we have GT racing cars, ranging from GT exotics to endurance cars to V8 supercars, and even a few oddities thrown in. The confidence that comes from driving these precision-tuned racing machines should produce some intense parity on the racetrack. For the special quirk in this race, the end condition will be based on time instead of laps, with the race running until 8 minutes. Once that timer runs out, the driver that's in first place wins the race. But the catch is that the drivers must complete one quick stop before the race ends, just like the first race this year. It could be either on the first or second lap, so the drivers have to be mindful of when they pull onto pit road, because you don't want to be stuck doing your quick stop when the timer runs out with nowhere to go. With an 8-minute race and a quick stop, we should be able to complete somewhere between 1.5 and 3 laps here at Silverstone. And each driver is going to plan accordingly and set up their strategy with that in mind. And for the points quirk for this race, the top 10 qualifying drivers will be granted 10 extra bonus points just for running a fast lap. This quirk was chosen due to the importance of qualifying in GT and Formula racing. And now with that out of the way, on to the drivers that will be competing in this event. First up, we have Crispy, the winner from last week, going strong into this next race by qualifying on the pole with a blazing fast lap. Perhaps they can be the first driver since World Race Series 2018 to win 2 races in a single season and get their 5th win. Starting second is Switchback, driving a beautiful chromed out Pagani Huayra. She drove her heart out in Japan after making a mistake on lap 1, and she's looking to have a good day to follow that up. She's also currently in the championship hunt and the highest qualifying Comet Motorsports driver today. In third is the President, the first of the Legend Racing drivers, and the highest qualifying V8 supercar today. He's in need of a pick-me-up after having 2 bad races in a row. He's currently 11th in points and is looking to turn his season back around. Starting fourth is our points leader, LuckyTito, in a yellow Lamborghini Murcielago. This is his first race representing his own race team, LuckyTito Incorporated, after leaving Legend Racing following last week's race in Japan. Will he falter as the race goes on? Or could he finally get to victory lane, driving for his own race team? All I know is he's looking strong going into this one, seemingly unfazed by the transition. But he has some steep opposition around him in his former teammates. He also planned on having Ghost drive part-time for him today, but due to travel constraints, another part-time driver looking for a ride was given to him. That part-time driver is our 5th place driver, G Otto, originally scheduled to drive for Midnight Motorsports, but unfortunately was unable to qualify for the race, and was given Ghost's ride last minute. He seems to be going strong into his very first World Race Series start, but he is unproven. Perhaps he can ascend to greatness, or he may be overwhelmed. Starting 6th is EJ the DJ, driving a Lamborghini Centenario. He needs a good race today, or his season might be over, as he's currently far behind where he started the season out. He's also Midnight Motorsports' best qualifying driver today. In 7th is the Owl, our winner at Circuit de Catalunya earlier this year, with another great start. Perhaps she can grab her 2nd win of the year, or at least grab enough points to stay in the hunt. Starting 8th is the 2nd highest qualifying part-time driver today, Surf Rat, driving for Paradise Racing, a small team fielding only a few part-time drivers this year. Surf Rat drove for the Racer's Edge last year, and today qualifies within the top 10, stealing 10 bonus points from a full-timer that probably badly needs it. Perhaps he can pull something off and be our first part-time winner this year. Starting in 9th is Cannon Carl, driving a WRC Rally Spec VW New Beetle. It's an odd car in this field, but an all-wheel drive track machine is just what he's comfortable with, and just what he needed after a terrible race last week, where he fell hard in the points. The final driver grabbing those crucial 10 bonus points is Inc., driving a gray GT Mercedes car, giving Sunset Motorsports a good start, putting 2 of their 3 drivers within the top 10. Like EJ the DJ, she desperately needs as many points as she can get, as she had a mid-race last week. Starting 11th is last week's pole sitter, the Nightrunner, who turned his season around last week. He's in the position to keep that momentum in that beautiful Pepsi Ford V8 supercar. He's also the highest qualifying Wisconsin Motorsports driver. It seems that whatever edge they had at Sakito is not present today. And in 12th, we have the Bandit, driving a Shell Ford. They drove well last week, but finished 13th and fell 2 spots in the points. But they could honestly go for the win today, with the weird wind conditions we have. They're also the second best qualifying Legend Racing driver. In general, it isn't looking too good for them besides the president. Starting 13th is Action Star, finally getting a decent qualifying run in to start off a race, after underperforming for every race so far besides Eldora, which honestly doesn't really count. Honestly, it's not looking too bad for Midnight Motorsports today. They seem to have gotten their stuff together for the most part, with all of their drivers starting within the top 15, along with Giotto, who was originally slated to drive for them. In 14th, we have Big Willie, the next highest WIM driver. After an astounding 3rd place finish last week, he's currently 4th in points. And if he has another good day today, he could keep that spot, but I doubt it. Starting 15th is MattJack, driving a Freightliner Holden V8 supercar. He'll most likely stay within the top 10 in points if he stays within the top 15 after the 8 minutes. Most likely, another good race on the horizon for him. The first driver outside of the top 16 is Crucifix, finally qualifying inside of the top 20 for one race. Perhaps she can rise in the point standings today. Unfortunately, it'll most likely be in vain either way, as it's almost mathematically impossible for her to win the championship at this point. Starting 17th is Crucifix Wolfpack teammate, MetalHead, driving a pretty cool drift Mustang. He'll be running a very loose setup, as he should on that car, so keep an eye on him today. Big Ed starts in 18th, the worst qualifying effort for a full-time Comet Motorsports driver this whole season. I don't know what happened, but he'll most likely fall out of the top 10 in points if he doesn't run a good quick-stop strategy today. Starting 19th is the Sheeepster, driving the same car that the World Race Series 2018 champion Megan Washington, aka MegCat, drove in her last World Race Series race, where she actually finished in 8th. Hopefully Sheeepster can finish as well as MegCat did that day, but the chances are looking pretty slim. Starting 20th, we finally find Matzo, our Eldora winner. He's looking to be mirroring his starting position in Spain, once again driving an HSV Holden. Perhaps he can make up the spots as the minutes tick down. In 21st starts the Downtown Dominator. So far he's had 2 bad races, and he's technically last in points, tied with MetalHead. So if he does badly today, he'll only be in a worse points hole. If he keeps this performance up, chances are he'll be out of a job. Or worse, DTR will just close up shop altogether. Or perhaps bring Jeezy up to run full time. Starting 22nd is the 3rd part-time driver in today's race, number 1 Stunner, running his 2nd race of the season after driving like a madman and finishing 14th in Japan last week. We'll have to see what he can pull off today. 23rd is Steph, driving a very stylish Porsche GT2 RS for Paradise Racing with Surfrat. Steph was once considered legendary as a World Race Series driver and was once an elite company, but since 2014, she's fallen way off the deep end and has not had much success since her run with the Ironhides all those years ago. Perhaps she can right those wrongs today, but it's looking pretty unlikely as she's at a huge deficit on the starting grid. Filling up the last spot, we have Woof Air, who had a bad spin in qualifying, resulting in a really slow time. This is Legend Racing's worst qualifying effort yet this year, and as she sits 13th in points currently, this spells disaster for her season. But we know she has a fast car, so don't count her out quite yet. And now, as the storm clouds roll over the British sky, we're ready to begin the 4th race of World Race Series 2022 here at Silverstone. And we're off. Crispy leads as Giotto shoots up to 4th, and LuckyTito to 3rd. Good starts for the LT1 guys. Into the first turn, LuckyTito makes a move on Switchback for 2nd as MattJack passes Big Willie and Surfrat and Cannacaro pass the Owl. It would seem LuckyTito has the spot, while EJ the DJ battles with Giotto for 4th. Giotto on the inside there, and he overshoots the corner. EJ passes on the inside. Meanwhile, Crispy still leads, and Giotto spins. He was fighting a little too hard, and now he bites the dust. An unfortunate event in his first race. And he's back on track and immediately fighting with Big Ed for 13th. And here we see number 1 Stunner in the back of the pack. MetalHead off track there. And a big crash! The whole rear having a bit of trouble getting through this turn. Steph involved, so is Crucifix, Woofera, Sheeepster, MetalHead, and number 1 Stunner. What a weird stop-up. Crispy is still leading, but LuckyTito wants that lead. He takes the inside. Following a clean line, our points leader takes the lead for the first time this season outside of pit stops. But Crispy gets a better launch out of that corner. LuckyTito has the preferred line here, and he takes it back. He's taking the fast line, trying to build up as much speed as possible through there. Crispy pulls the same move there. Crispy and Switchback aren't going to let LuckyTito get away easy. Switchback could easily pass Crispy anytime as well. We got a car off track. It's EJ the DJ. After finally qualifying well, he's going to sink far in the field. And there as the field goes past, it would seem that the camera is actually stuck in this one spot because it's trying to focus on EJ. He's still stuck off track. No one's going to let him in. And there you saw him there. And finally he's back in it, now in 20th. That's absolutely devastating to see. He really needed a good race today. As you can see, Giotto was back there as well. He's fallen hard after making a few more mistakes after spinning out. And now he passed the pit lane as LuckyTito decides to stay out this lap. Crispy and Switchback are coming in though. Or not. They've changed their minds and cut the grass to get back on track. The top three all staying out this lap. And Crispy into the trackside wall. Switchback to second. I don't know what they were thinking trying to cut that corner like that. Fortunately, being quick stop time, Crispy will hopefully not lose too many spots due to this crash once they cycle out. Many drivers are coming in this lap though. Here we see Surf Rat along with Cannon Carl, Steph, Nightrunner, Inc., The Owl, President, Bandit, Woofair, and several others. Big Ed, Sheepster, Big Willie, Matzo, Number One Stunner, Dominator, EJ the DJ, and Giotto all staying out along with the top three. LuckyTito keeps his lead. Hopefully he can stay mistake-free and come out on top for the first time this season, which would be fitting as the points leader. He has a really fast car today, but so does Switchback, Crispy, and a few of the drivers who have pitted already. Cannon Carl, President, and Steph chief among them, having really fast quick stops. Also remember, all drivers with the asterisk next to their names have completed their pit stops. And here we see Switchback, who's currently chasing our leader LuckyTito from a distance. Having to cut the grass definitely slowed her down a bit. Here's some of the drivers who stayed out this lap. Steph and Cannon Carl are now mixing in with them, and it's looking like it's going to be a close race by the end. Sheeepster running 6th in that MaTJack car. And there you see Cannon Carl putting the quick stop, one of the fastest cars on pit road. And there's the Dominator, as you can see, driving a pretty loose drift car. LuckyTito still leading. He wants a win badly today, but he doesn't need one because he has a very large points cushion right now. Either way, he's impressed this season, and this day in particular, as head of his own new race team after leaving Legend Racing after the race in Japan last week. There's Big Ed in 4th, chasing Crispy, who's alarmingly close to him. Nightrunner in 19th completed his quick stop earlier and is running a good race. He'll probably cycle out into the high teens or maybe even within the top 10 by the end. He could use a good finish today to push him into the top 5 in points, as he's currently in 6th. The way Matzo's running today, that just might happen. Crucifix also finally running well today behind him, as she already completed her quick stop. LuckyTito Lamborghini looks and sounds fast today, but Steph has impressively made it to the front of the pack of drivers who have completed their pit stop. And her Porsche is looking just as fast, if not faster. This could be a concern as LuckyTito now pulls onto pit road. Switchback and of course Crispy follows him. Hopefully Crispy doesn't lose too many spots here. Big Ed coming in this lap as well, followed by Big Willie, the Sheepster, Matzo, Number One Stunner, and everyone else who didn't pit earlier. As we only have a minute and a half left, there won't be enough time to run another full lap and make it back to pit road again. And there's Steph, passing a ton of cars as she flies past pit road. LuckyTito pulling off now as we have less than a minute to go. It's going to be close. LuckyTito assumes the lead, but Steph is close behind him. She passes him and tries to slam the door on him on the inside. LuckyTito isn't going to give up this win easy. Steph shoots into the lead, but she has the inside line here. But LuckyTito does a crossover, and they touch, and he's by. But he went too fast into that turn and had to brake heavily. Steph gets a better launch from there. The two drivers maintaining distance while they break into most likely the final corner. 10 seconds left. Steph has the acceleration on the straightaway, but LuckyTito hangs with her. Who's it gonna be? LuckyTito's gonna try to outbrake her here, but it's not enough. Time is up. Steph, mere centimeters out in front of LuckyTito. A part-time driver has won in World Race Series 2022. Steph of Paradise Racing in her one and only start this year. LuckyTito must be furious. What a race. Man, honestly, I did not expect this one to be so good. So Steph has won for the first time in her World Race Series career, at least that we know of on screen, as she was leader of the legendary Ironhides team once upon a time, and probably won many races with them that weren't actually shown on screen. Apart from winning stage 1 of the 2020 Talladega Special, she never really had much success, and had a lot of bad luck in the World Race Series. But finally, she's come to victory lane 8 years after her first start, as a part-timer no less. It's also a good showing for Paradise Racing as a whole, with her husband and teammate Surf Rat finishing 6th today, both of them within the top 10. A good mix of strategy and good old-fashioned skill, resulting in a surprise victory here today. But LuckyTito fought his heart out. He's been under a lot of pressure lately, with outside stress adding up, and as the points leader and owner of his own new race team, a lot was on the line today. But it isn't over, as he will certainly keep the points lead after today, and his championship hunt is very, very much still alive. But I do reckon that this is a big morale hit. After a race like that, I'd rather finish 10th than coming so close to winning it all, and then not getting there. But he does get as much points as he would from winning it anyways, as he got the 10 bonus points from qualifying within the top 10. Will Fair, another driver who snuck into the top 10 late, she seems to have had a fast car all along, but after spinning in qualifying, she didn't really get to show that until now. A good day that she needed badly, as she's fallen to 13th in the points. The President, Switchback, Cannon Carl, and Inc. badly needed good days, as they have all fallen drastically in the points, and good days they have had. The Owl having a bit of an off day today, but not a bad one by any means, and finishes within the top 10. Crispy fell hard after that crash following lap 1 pit stops, but still managed to come out with a top 10, just barely. They entered the track 11th after quick stops, so they at least managed before time was up to pass their sibling Nightrunner, who they battled all last week. Crucifix also finishes within the top 15 for once this year. It probably won't make a difference, but it's definitely a morale booster. Bandit and Big Willie having very subpar days today compared to previous performances. They probably will fall in the points, Big Willie especially. Action Star finally finishes within the top 15 outside of Eldora. He's surprisingly the highest finishing Midnight Motorsports driver outside of Cannon Carl. On the contrary, Big Ed has an uncharacteristic day today, finishing outside of the top 16, the worst finish of a full-time Comet Motorsports driver this year. This may be telltale signs of a fall-off from one of the consistently best teams this season. Sheeepster and MattJack also having bad days today. Both will certainly fall hard in the points today. But the real shocker is Matzo, finishing 20th, his worst finish this whole year, even worse than Catalunya, where he qualified to start in last. Getting only 50 points today, he'll definitely fall outside of the top 5 in points. Shocking news for someone who won a race this season early on. Number 1 Stun in his second and final start this season underperforms due to a bad qualifying run, but he still drove well through it all. We hope to see more of him in coming years. And then there's EJ the DJ and Giotto. Big hopefuls in this race. Giotto qualifying 5th in this first race ever for LuckyTito Incorporated, and EJ for Midnight Motorsport starting 6th, finally getting the chance to have a good race. But both making fatal mistakes. It's all but over for EJ the DJ as far as the championship goes. But Giotto, on the other hand, ran about where he was expected to, and even after all that, still rises a little bit above expectations for his qualifying effort alone. Then we have the Downtown Dominator. Nothing really to talk about there. Now for the point standings. As you can see for the first time this year, the winner is not a full-time driver, and yet LuckyTito comes away with 240 points and maintains the points lead, now leading an impressive 110 points over second place, the Owl, who had a decent day, where she didn't close the gap on first, but her fellow drivers in the hunt didn't do well enough to pass up just yet. Crispy would have if they didn't crash and manage to finish in 3rd or 4th, but there's still hope, as they're only 30 points behind the Owl. LuckyTito's pretty comfortable up there, but if he has a bad day in either of the 2 remaining races, one of them could easily take the points lead. Switchback had a great day today and is back to 4th on the grid. She's been all over the place, starting out 7th, then rising to 4th, then back down to 7th, and now back up to 4th again. I hope she can keep it up in the next 2 races because she's really showing out this season. Nightrunner passes up Big Willie, but not by much, and only because Willie had a bad race today. President rises from 11th to 7th after a great race today, just the thing he needed to get back in the hunt. His Legend Racing teammates Woofair and the Bandit now follow close behind him in 8th and 9th. Finally, for the first time this season, all of them are in the top 10. After them, we move into no man's land, where it's sad to say, but any of the drivers here are for the most part out of the championship hunt, as they are over 300 points to the good, which is a very, very, very hard gap to close. Unfortunately, Matzo is among these drivers, but he can still remain hopeful, as he just barely clings on to the top 10, keeping all Wisconsin Motorsports drivers within that box. MattJack and Big Ed, after having a great first few races of the season, are outside of the top 10 now. After a very bad race, Big Ed is the first Comet Motorsports driver to fall out so far. Cannon Carl, meanwhile, shoots up to 13th from 16th after a good day, but his race in Japan was so bad, it doesn't make much of a difference at all. The same goes for Inc., who had a good day today, but it's still a good shot in the arm for both of them. Sheeepster, meanwhile, drops from 12th to 15th. She's been dropping slowly since race 1, where she began the season in 9th. Maybe she can turn it around as the season finishes up, but I doubt it. EJ the DJ had a bad day after making a mistake and sinks from 14th to 16th on the leaderboard. Action Star stays in 17th, as his good day today doesn't help him much. And honestly, even though Midnight Motorsports looked like they had their things together early on in the race, it seems that they kind of fell off over time and finished about where they have all season. And the same goes for Crucifix, but at least she's lengthened her gap on 19th and 20th place. Her teammate is now cleanly ahead of the Dominator, putting DTR in last on the leaderboard after Dominator scores just 10 points today. It's not looking good for all of these drivers past 9th place today, but looking on the bright side, at least they can have some fun driving on a racetrack for 2 more races this year, even though none of them can realistically go for a championship at this point. And that concludes our field and championship summary of today's race at Silverstone. As the rains begin to fall and thunder echoes through the skies of the Commonwealth, Steph commences her victory burnout. I do love a good celebration in the rain. It's been a good day of racing. We now look forward to the 5th and final regular season race of 2022. It'll be featuring NASCAR race cars, but not the 1990s ones we saw in race number 3. But until next time, and before I have to go and walk outside in this miserable British rain, this is Sailor Marhoff with the World Race Series, signing off.